Good evening to all of you. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our service. We're delighted that you are with us virtually this evening. This evening we are back to our prayer books, so online on the virtual prayer book, we're going to begin our service with Shalom Aleichem, virtual page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lachem Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We welcome Shabbat now with the kindling of the Sabbath lights as we turn in our virtual prayer books to pages 20 and 21. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Nehadlikne shel Shabbat.
We continue now with the Chatz HaKadosh on page 44.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemer Rabba, bi'alma devrach yiruteh v'yamlich machuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'chayede kol bet Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, u'v'isman kariv v'himeru amen. Yeshmer Rabba mevarach le'alam u'l'almei hamaya yitzbarach ויתברך וישתבח ויצפה ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמד קודשה בריחו לאל מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
We turn now to page 46 in our virtual prayer books as we rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma potech she'arim uvidvuna mishanei itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmaratem barakia kertzono b'rayom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or uma'avir yom umevi layla umavdil ben yom uvein layla Adonai Tzavaot Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו Adonai
be seated as we continue with the V'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מקודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לעליכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Page 57 in our virtual prayer books. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Bahanim Adonai Mi Kamocha Nedad Makodesh Norat Hilot Osefele Norat Hilot Osefele Malechutecha Rahu בוקעיים לפני משה ומירם זילי זילי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 61. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence our acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace. over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, porei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, לדורותם ברית עולם.
Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We rise now for the Tefillah, page 64 in our virtual prayer books.
Adonai sifata tiftach ufi tehillatcha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר השדה אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בר גבורות ומדוע מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated as we continue on page 73 of our virtual prayer books. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha ne'eh lahodot.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. At this time in our service, we ask for healing on all those who suffer from the pain of illness, all those whose souls are troubled by depression and anxiety during this time of COVID-19. And of course, oh God, we ask for healing for our fractured nation. We turn in our virtual prayer books to page 271 as we sing our prayer for healing, the Misha Berach.
Sheberach avotenu mekol habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pause now for a moment of silent prayer.
O say shalom b'mromav, O yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
The Secretary General of the Palestinian Liberation Organization was Saeb Erekat. You may recognize his name, as Mr. Erekat had been a senior negotiator in talks with Israel. He served as an advisor to Yasser Arafat and to the present president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. Erekat was diagnosed with a very virulent case of the coronavirus and was in critical condition in Hadassah Hospital in Israel, receiving the best medical care possible until he passed away just recently at the age of 65. Seems strange that a senior leader of the Palestinians would find himself a patient at Hadassah Hospital. After all, the Palestinians support the BDS movement, the boycott of all things Israeli. When it was learned that Mr. Erekat was a patient at Hadassah in Jerusalem, there were Israelis who were appalled. The Washington Post reports that protesters, some related to victims of past terrorist attacks, objected to his admission to an Israeli hospital where he was being treated in intensive care. "Let him die," read one protest sign, according to a hospital staff member who witnessed the protest, a sentiment repeated on numerous social media posts and news comments since Erekat's transfer from his West Bank home to Jerusalem's Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital. Some protesters were rather vocal. The state of Israel should not try to save the life of someone who profits from the murder of Jews, said Herzl Hajjaj, whose 22-year-old daughter Shir was killed in 2017 when a Palestinian driver rammed a group of soldiers. Others, the Post reports, have complained that it was hypocritical of Mr. Erekat to seek treatment in a country he so frequently condemns. Critics noted his recent efforts to bring Israel to trial in the International Criminal Court and persuade the European Union to ban agricultural products from Jewish settlements in the West Bank. Erekat was hardly the typical patient. In addition to being a high-ranking Palestinian diplomat, he also had a lung transplant, which is most likely why he was in Israel, receiving the advanced treatment necessary and unlikely available in neighboring Arab countries. His doctor said it's last-line therapy. If this doesn't work, there's nothing else. That Erekat, theoretically an enemy of Israel, should be accepted for treatment in an Israeli hospital without seeking any concessions from the Palestinians for his treatment speaks volumes about what makes Judaism unique. Love your neighbor as yourself, the Torah teaches, without defining the neighbor's color, religion, or ethnicity. Were that merely a stand-alone commandment, a singular sentiment in the Torah, we might be able to interpret that imperative to suit our purposes. But such a commandment about how we treat others is hardly an isolated instance. We are to show mercy to the stranger, to the orphaned, to the widow, and to the hungry, and we are commanded to not stand idly by the blood of our neighbor. Not standing idly by means we do what we can to save the life of that person. Some might argue, as Rabbi Akiba did, that Judaism effectively teaches that one's own life takes precedence over the life of another, if we might die while attempting to save someone else. But in this situation, such reasoning was hardly applicable, as no Israelis were denied life-saving treatment because Erekat was receiving medical treatment. Judaism is adamant that all of us are created in the divine image. Judaism is unambiguous when it emphasizes pikuach nefesh, that the saving of life overrides Judaism's other commandments. Judaism insists that our every deed should sanctify God's name. Judaism requires us to never behave in a way that will bring dishonor to our people or to our principles. As a Jew, I am proud that an Israeli hospital treated Mr. Erekat. We are not permitted to be selective about how we apply our moral values or for whom. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. All of us here wish all of you a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We know that it will be different, but we should be thankful for what we do have and for what we are still able to enjoy. We turn now to our concluding prayers. The Elena is found in our virtual prayer books on page 300. Will you please rise?
גדולה ליוצא בראשית שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שמחו חינוכם וגורלנו ככל עמונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לבני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. We continue now in our virtual prayer books on page 309. There are stars up above so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat worship, we think longingly and lovingly of Anne Gaines and Irene Goodman, both taken from us during recent days and weeks. We name too at this time those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of whose passing occurs, as on this Shabbat we recall Bertha Edelstein, Dorothy C. Baer, Phyllis E. Baum, Gustav Baer, Rosa Baer, Mildred R. Blackstone, Henry R. Block, David R. Brown, Mort B. Cohn, Joe Coughlin, Samuel Kronstein, Peggy Damrauer, Marjorie Emmerman, Sidney Golkin, Samuel Grossman, Al Hahn, Joan Hiller, Mary Frances Klein, Herbert J. Kleinman, Julian M. Kobacker, Emmanuel Levinson, Robert Levy, Dorothy Little, Regina Nathan, Mary Neufeld, Donald Oken, Isidore Pashkow, Rose Reifman, Alan Rosen, Charlotte June Rosen, Earl M. Rosengarten, R. William Rosenthal Jr., Joseph Roshi, Leo Rothschild, James Gary Shopneck, Richard Silverman, James L. Thal, Sammy Thal, Barry Vincent, Dorothy Wagner, Maxine Wolfenstein, and Robert Norton Zanville. We turn now in our virtual prayer books to page 312 as we rise to sanctify the name of God with the words of the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yalmad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam olamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barihu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran b'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, give comfort to all who are bereaved, here and everywhere, as together we say Amen. We turn now in our virtual prayer books to page 339 as we join together in singing Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'et Nasa V'chetzol Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Nivado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hove Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'en Sheni Le'amshir Lo Le'achmira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chagvani V'tzulchem li Be'tzara Ve'hu nisi v'maslos li Menat kosi Be'om ekra Be'yado afkid ruchi Be'edishan Be'ahira Ve'im ruchi Geviati Adonai Ve'lo
Join us in the Kiddush, page 23 of our virtual prayer books.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei piri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu zikaron lamaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh zecher yetziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikoramim v'shamar kodeshecha ve'avu v'ratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.